Hi folks, we're in the woods giving it some stick again on EMBN. Now you might have noticed at the recent EWS in Zermatt, many of the pro riders were reducing the travel on their e-bikes from say 170mm down to 140, 130mm travel, because apparently that makes them quicker at climbing. So on today's video, we are taking a hideously technical climb and seeing whether you should actually listen to the pros and reduce the travel on your fork. Now, it wasn't that long ago, maybe a decade ago, that most mountain bikes came with adjustable travel forks. Forks such as the Fox Talus, which you could reduce from 160mm down to 140, down to 110. Or indeed the Rockshox Pike U-turn, which you could turn down from 140 down to 95mm. Now, in all honesty, I never used to use the travel adjust on my mountain bike a decade ago because, well, by the time I stopped, got off and locked the fork down, my mates were well gone. And also, there was an argument amongst some people that you actually train your body to climb in a certain position. So your muscles in this part of your body were strong. So if you turned the angle of your bike downwards, there's an argument to say you'd have to retrain your muscles as well. There was also the argument that if the ground got real steep, you'd probably be pushing or carrying the bike on your back anyway. So the question always was, at what point do you lock your fork down? So the question is, what effect will reducing the travel have on your e-mountain bike? Well, the answer to that is very simple. It depends. It depends on the geometry you have on your e-mountain bike in the first place. On some e-mountain bikes, reducing the travel might actually make it better, whereas on others, and I would say on most of them, you will actually make a dog's dinner out of the geometry of your bike. Now, on this particular bike, I would suggest that changing the geometry is going to have an adverse effect on its climbing ability. Whereas on other bikes, for example, if a bike had 170mm travel up front with a super slack head angle of maybe 62, 63 degrees and a ridiculously high bottom bracket of say, I don't know, 380mm, then reducing the fork travel is actually going to have a positive effect. You're going to make it slightly steeper and slightly lower, which will probably give it a more dynamic climbing characteristic. So, 4 things to bear in mind that reducing the travel of your e-mountain bike is going to have. It's going to have an effect on the head angle, the bottom bracket height, the amount of travel, obviously, and also the suspension characteristic. Because you remember, that fork was meant to work in a certain part of the travel. So I'm now at the base of a hill which I totally believe would not be out of place at an Enduro World Series power stage. I'm on my high bike, all mountain, which has not got adjustable travel. It's 160mm up front and 150mm on the rear. Okay, and we're away. Now I've got a PWX2 Yamaha motor on here. You can see all the collisions on this hill. So like I mentioned, this bike is made for climbing and descending. It's got a 460mm chainstay. So remember, geometry and the motor is as important as suspension travel. Whoa. Now this ahead is proper horrible. Look at all these collisions, so you're going to be really accurate. Oh yes, come on. I would suggest that 10mm more or less on your chainstay is going to have much more of an effect on your climbing ability than 10mm less on your fork. Okay folks, we are now live on this horror climb, which, as I mentioned, would not be out of place at a world level enduro round. It's got loads of collisions on it. I'm obviously in extra power mode. Probably not going to be able to talk in a minute. You've got to get your line choice so right. Really, can't tell you how technical this is. Now going into the crux, super tech in here. You've got to get it right. Oh, bit of a stall. I'll keep it going because that kind of thing will undoubtedly happen during a race. Near the top, stop. Still hard because this bike has been designed as it has, it's designed to have good, weight distribution, front and rear. So when you're climbing crazy stuff like that, you've got a balanced position on the bike. Obviously, you still need to have fitness, which I clearly have not got today. Now, obviously not ideal conditions in here for measuring. Nevertheless, it'll be consistent for both measurements. Now, this is stock geometry on the bike, and we're looking at a head angle of 65 degrees and a bottom bracket height of, I'm guessing, about 340, 330, about 335. So now I'm going to reduce the travel of the bike. Zip ties ain't strong enough. So now we've got our forks clamped down at 125 mil travel, which means we've lost 35 millimeter travel up front. So what effect is that going to have on the bottom bracket? First of all, well, we're now looking at 320 millimeters on the bottom bracket and a head angle of, I'm guessing, about 66 degree head angle now. So even though we've got a, what many would regard as a good climbing angle of 67 degrees, we've now dropped the bottom bracket down to 320, which many would argue is below the optimum height for bottom brackets for climbing. And also we've shortened the front center of the bike, which means we've changed our weight distribution on the bike. But only one way to find out, and that's by getting up the hill. Righty, now we're on the reduced travel bike, 125 mil travel up front, the rear is the same, and I'm in extra power, and away we go. Oh, gotta say it feels all right actually. Ooh. As I mentioned earlier, it's all about line choice as much as it is about geometry and suspension travel. Well, I've got to say, so far, my line choice hasn't been too bad. Like I said, this is a key part. Oh, kept good flow there, good momentum, which is really critical. Oh, it's going well. But anyhow, I think enough of the chit chat, because at world level, the hundredths and tenths of a second matter. So let's go and put some times in. Okay, and away we go with the dog dinner style. And initial impressions are, that's not too bad actually. But we'll soon find out as we get into the technical part of the climb. Actually, it's not too bad. Feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. So obviously when you've got a technical climb, your line choice is equally as important as geometry of your bike as well, which is actually going pretty well. Better than I expected, which proves you've got to keep an open mind about these things. So, and also I believe that, so I actually cleaned that bit where I got it wrong on the 160. Actually going pretty well, but it's all in the clock. What have we got? Now, like I mentioned, it's all about line choice as well as the geometry and the power of your bike. And I think I got a smoother run with the bike at 125 mil travel. So probably I would have got a faster run on the 125. However, I've just done an action replay of both runs, and it seems that even with the mistake, the 160 mil travel fork was faster. So if I hadn't made that crucial mistake, which lost me probably 2 seconds, I would say that roughly over about a minute, that 160 mil travel fork on this particular hill with this rider on that bike is about 2 to 3 seconds faster. So on this occasion, the longer travel bike was the king of the hill. 160 up front beat 125. Should you listen to the pros? I don't know. Maybe some of the pros felt that their geometry needed changing. Maybe it was a mental thing. I don't know. Get involved in the comments on reducing the travel of your forks. Now, To me, it wasn't actually any of a surprise, because on previous occasions when I've ridden such bikes as some of the I actually won't name the names, but it felt to me always that I was pedaling into the hill rather than with the hill. And also we know for a fact that many 180mm travels are as quick at climbing as many 140, 150mm travel bikes. So thoroughly enjoyed doing that. Absolutely love doing these comparison runs. Let us know your thoughts. Do you actually think that we should bring back travel adjust forks? Yeah, let us know in the comments below. That's it for now. See you in the woods, and don't forget to tune in to the fantastic EWS content on EMBN.